Welcome to the Put On Waivers Media Group, home of the Put On Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome to another glorious episode of The Mix. The Mix is just kind of a show that I created just to do a little bit about my favorite teams. So basically, we talk a little bit USC football, a little bit Las Vegas Raiders, and a little bit San Francisco Giants. We're here with Jeff Young. He's just a great follow if you want to follow San Francisco Giants or just baseball in general. Jeff, how you doing today?
Well, I'm doing well, Dwayne. Thanks for that nice introduction. Happy to chat Giants baseball.
Yeah, let's see what we got here. So I'm gonna beat around the bush before I get to to what everybody else wants to talk what everybody else wants to talk about. So yeah. 21 to 22, you won the division in 21. Kind of fell short of the playoffs in 22. Can you give us some of the? I think we know, but what's some of the biggest reasons why the Giants kind of fell short of making the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, to me, there were two reasons that stuck out. The first one being the bullpen. It just was not as reliable as it was in 2021. I think it was the best bullpen in baseball with a 2.99 ERA. It fell to the bottom half of the bottom third in baseball by ERA in 2022. So a pretty significant regression there, just overall. And then the defense. I mean, anyone who watched the Giants play in 2022 knows that the defense was very, very below average, and that might be putting it nicely. I mean, they had some of the worst defensive metrics in just about every position. Left field was a problem area. Second base was a problem area. I mean, you can look at just about any position. So, I mean, those were the two things that stand out to me as why they went from 107 wins to 81 wins in just one season.
So, I mean, as far as like the bullpen goes, I'm a firm believer that you have to do something in your bullpen every year because bullpen pitchers are bullpen pitchers. Like when one year they'll have a great season, one year they won't. Let's start with the closer. Do you feel like going into this season that Duvall is the guy for the Giants? Like he does have great stuff, does have a great arm, can hit 102, 103 sometimes. But what were your thoughts about him? Do you feel like he's going to be the Giants' full-time closer?
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy that they're counting on, right? Because he can throw, a 98, 99, 100-mile-an-hour sinker that gets beat into the ground, and he's got a pretty devastating slider. So, I mean, I think looking at the bullpen, there are a lot of question marks, but in terms of who the closer is, it's got to be Camilo Duvall. And I think he earned that with how he pitched in 2022. He was he saved 27 games and 30 chances, which is like a 90% save rate. That's very good. And also just on a more anecdotal note, I mean, it just felt like his saves were not as torturous as we've seen with some Giants closers in the past. They were very, they were oddly relaxing to watch. He just kind of had that feeling about him. Whenever you watch him on the mound, it feels like he's got ice in his veins. He's just as a reliable closer.
Exactly. That's good. I can remember the Giants now just yelling torture, and in the past as far as them trying to close games. It used to be a love-hate. Now I have kind of a little bit of a hate-hate relationship with 71 Tyler Rogers. I'm not big on Tyler Rogers. He can't just come in and pitch to one guy anymore. So, because that era of baseball is over. What do you feel about his in this bullpen? I think he has a place with the Giants because I think the general manager and I think the manager like him, but I don't ever feel comfortable when he comes into the ballgame.
Yeah, and it's funny because he has been, just in my opinion, pretty reliable throughout his time with the Giants. But I know that the Giants fans are he's pretty polarizing in the sense that some fans love him and other fans, just can't really stand when he's out there. And I know the Giants do value him. So I think there is a leverage role for him in 2023. He's a good guy that you can bring in and get a ground ball or two. The problem is he just doesn't have a ton of swing in this stuff, and that's due in part to the fact that his fastball sits at about 84 miles an hour. So I mean, he, on one hand, he's great at getting poor contact, but on the other hand, he also needs a really good defense behind him. And I think that's one of the areas where obviously the Giants just struggled in 2022 is that they just didn't have a good enough defense behind him. But overall his numbers weren't bad. He had a couple of blowups early in the season, and I think he recovered nicely. But with that being said, they still need to add a couple of leverage relievers to the bullpen. I think if Tyler Rogers is pitching maybe the 6th inning, maybe the 7th inning, that's good. But if he's, consistently an 8th inning guy, I like him, but I'd have my reservations as well.
Alex Cobb, do you feel like he's he kind of got off to a slow start and kind of came on a little bit later? How you feel like his season went?
Yeah, he had a very nice season. I don't have his numbers in front of me, but he was just almost like a mini Logan Webb in a way, in that he excelled at just getting strikeouts. He filled up the strike zone. He works quick. He gets a lot of ground balls, kind of like Logan Webb. So I think he had a really nice season. He did have a slow start, and he actually struggled midway through the year with runners on base, and something that was kind of like an odd. You knew he was going to improve because it wasn't, his left on base numbers. I don't have them right in front of me, but I know that was one area that he struggled in, and that was something that kind of progressed to the mean by the end of the year. But yeah, he had a very nice year. I think he's under contract for 2023 for about $10 or $12 million. He has an option after that. So pretty nice signing for the Giants. Good year overall, but if you're looking at the rotation, if he's your number 2 guy, I think that's going to be a concern. I think they need to have a better number 2 behind Logan Webb, or like a co-ace like they had with Carlos Rodon in 2022 and Kevin Gausman in 2021.
You mentioned Carlos Rodon. So is he just out of the picture? Or is he going to the Dodgers? Or what's the thought process with Rodon, who does, he does have good stuff. There's a lot of pitches. Could be like it's 6 inning guy sometimes. A lot of the time. But what are your thoughts about Carlos Rodon? Do the Giants have a chance to get him back? And what do you think about him? Where do you think he might go if he's not with the Giants?
Yeah, that's going to be a tough question to answer, because I don't know if he's going to return to the Giants as much as I want him to, just given the fact that he's going to be in the market for a 5-year deal and maybe even a 6-year deal. The Jacob deGrom contract that was signed, it was a 5-year, $185 million contract with a conditional option for a 6th season. That really blew expectations of what he was going to get. And I think that has kind of a ripple effect throughout the pitching market, and that a lot of pitchers are pushing for an extra season or 2 on their next deal. And Rodon's definitely one of them. I mean, he's entering his age 30 season next year. He's got a lot of prime years ahead of him. So I think for a team like the Giants, who does not like to give out long-term deals to pitchers or anyone in general, I feel like the ship has kind of sailed, and I know people within the Giants have kind of sensed the same thing with Carlos Rodon. But on a different note, I wouldn't expect him to go to the Dodgers either, because they operate similarly to the Giants. They don't like giving out long-term deals to pitchers in particular, and players in general. So I wouldn't expect him to go to the Dodgers. I mean, there's always the chance that a mystery team like the Diamondbacks or the Rangers or the Mariners jump in. But I know he's been connected to the Mets and the Yankees. I'm not sure if the Mets are seriously interested, but I feel like the Yankees, especially if they lose out on Aaron Judge, they need to find a way to solidify that rotation, because that lineup by itself isn't good enough to win a ton of games.
No. So Mitch Haniger signs with the Giants. He, the Giants hope they're getting to 2021 Haniger. As far as that goes, what are your thoughts about him, and can he help add to the Giants lineup? Because I mean, they get Jock Peterson's coming back. They do have some pieces there, but they have an outfield they have to figure out, and we'll talk about that after. Your thoughts on Haniger? How does he fit in with the Giants here?
Yeah, I mean, Mitch Haniger has the potential to be a really nice value signing for the Giants. It's a 3-year, $43.5 million $43.5 million deal. So that's an average annual value of about $14.5 million. I mean, this is a guy who's consistently hit throughout his career. He's generally been a good defender in outfield, which the Giants need. Of course, the big question mark is going to be health, because he's missed substantial time throughout his career. He only appeared in 57 games in 2022, which is part of the reason why he signed the contract that he signed, because, you know, if you go back a year, he hit 39 home runs, he had 106 RBIs. I think he was probably looking at free agency as like an opportunity to really land a massive payday, and he did, but I think that he probably had expectations of earning even more. You know, if you go back a year, I think he had expectations of earning even more in his first trip through free agency. So I think it's a nice fit for the Giants to have an appetite for injury risk. A lot of it's going to depend on how many games he plays, because when he's healthy, he's generally been a good hitter. But the question is health. Is he going to be able to stay on the field? And the Giants have, you know, typically found a way of keeping even guys with injury risk on the field. Guys like Alex Cobb, for example, I know it's a different position, and Carlos Rodon both had significant injury risk, and the Giants were totally fine signing both of those players. So, and neither one missed substantial time. Rodon missed his final start of the year, but like even Alex Cobb missed a couple of starts here and there, but it wasn't substantial time. So a lot of it's going to depend on how many games he can play in 2023 and beyond.
Talking to Jeff Young here, fan-sided, all that good stuff there around the Foghorn. And you can catch his stuff on Twitter at BaseballJeff1. A great picture of him and his dog there, of course, as well. So, you know, I'm from the East Coast, and I've lived in the middle of Mets, Yankees, Red Sox world. So it would be real for me to text my Yankee fan friends. It would be great to see Judge in a uniform that is orange and black. What do you feel like is going to happen? Do you feel like you feel like it's just basically down to two teams? I'm seeing that people are posting that he landed in San Diego. Like all this stuff is happening in real time. Is there a chance that if you had to put a percentage on it, is it 50-50? Is he still, you think he's probably still deciding? I mean, it's a big decision to come over here. And sometimes coming home isn't the best thing for an athlete to do. So what are your thoughts about Aaron Judge possibly being a San Francisco Giant?
It'd be tough to put odds on it right now. I mean, all the indications are that are pointing in the Giants' favor. That could change in an instant, but Aaron Judge, I mean, he would be the biggest position player free agent that they've signed since Barry Bonds 30 years ago, which was on the state 30 years ago, actually. If he happens to sign tonight, which I think would be kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, he would just change the dynamic of that lineup, obviously, but he'd also, you know, add value outside of just what he does on the field, in that he could be kind of a recruiting pitch for future free agents. I mean, kind of like what we saw with Bryce Harper. I mean, he went to a Phillies team that was kind of, you know, in transition, and you know, he's helped turn that organization around, and they just landed Trey Turner to an 11-year deal for $300 million. So, I mean, Aaron Judge, like it would be transformational to add him to the Giants lineup. I mean, I hope that's what happens, but I'm always skeptical because, you know, the Giants just don't have a history of signing position players of that caliber. And of course, you know, you have to pry him away from the Yankees, and you know, you're going to have to pay a lot of money to do so. So I think it would be nice if the Giants were able to sign him. I'm just, you know, cautiously optimistic, but still, you know, there's still some skepticism out there. You know, he still has to sign the deal, but at least some signs seem to be pointing to the Giants' favor.
I mean, and even if Jeff Passan and whoever, I'm not gonna believe it until the press conference. So I'm not gonna actually believe it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna even believe it until it actually takes place. I can watch it. I can watch it on TV and see what happens. So here's I remember when Kawhi Leonard was playing his little game with the Lakers, And the one, I mean, I can't stand the Lakers front office now, but back then they worked very well together. So they were like, okay, so once he finished playing the game with the Lakers, they had basically signed a bunch of people that day. So they knew they had a plan in place if Kawhi Leonard went to the Clippers, and he did go to the Clippers. Yep. And they were able to win a championship. They had their team. They said, okay, he's not gonna, if he doesn't come, these are the moves we're gonna make. Do the Giants have that plan in place where if he goes back to New York, I know Mitch Hanginger is one of the pieces, but do they have, is Correa maybe on the horizon or somebody like that? Do they have because they really need position players. They need everyday players who are gonna help this, a pitching staff that can actually, it can be solid and not waste some of these quality starts.
Yeah. I mean, I think they can go in a number of different directions, and I think they're kind of doing their due diligence at this point to kind of have a backup plan if Aaron Judge does sign elsewhere. I know Carlos Correa, one of the players you mentioned. It's interesting that Alex Pavlovich, who is a beat writer for the Giants, he just happened to put out there a couple of days ago that Correa is atop the Giants wish list. And, he's very much in the know with what the Giants are doing and what they're thinking. So it wouldn't surprise me if they made a competitive offer to Correa if they happen to lose out on Aaron Judge. But, there's, like I said, there's a number of different directions they can go with this. If they want to get a shortstop, then Carlos Correa is going to be the top option on the market right now with Trey Turner off. But they could also pivot and go for another outfielder like Brennan Nimmo, Andrew Benintendi. I mean, there's a few different options that they can pursue. So it feels like they're keeping those options open. But the fact that they have Mitch Haniger now, I mean, he gives them kind of a nice middle of the order lineup, or a middle of the order hitter. And hopefully they can supplement that with another player, whether it be Aaron Judge, Carlos Correa, Brandon Nimmo. I mean, there's a few different options that are out there right now. So I think they're still, they have backup plans.
Yeah.
But it feels like they're putting a lot of effort into Aaron Judge right now.
If okay, let's just say they do get Correa. Is Crawford's playing second base? Like, is that basically the plan? Or
I think they've at least talked about moving Crawford to third base. I'm not
third base.
Sure
third base.
They have that set in stone, but they could also move whoever they sign to third base or second base as well for a season, knowing that they would shift back after the 2023 season with Crawford's contract coming up.
Okay, cool. All right, interesting to see that. See what's here. So a lot going on out in. I'm out in San Diego, so I might have to like. I'm gonna drive my car, see if I see a 6'7" guy in a suit walking around the downtown San Diego. As far as that goes, so we'll see what happens. But thank you for coming on. I know you're busy. I appreciate the time. Jeff Young comes on here and talk a little bit San Francisco Giants baseball at Baseball Jeff #1 is a great follow. If you're a Giant fan, but if you're a baseball fan, he definitely has some really good stats, some really good stuff on there, comments on there as well. So that's it, man. Hey, one real quick, is Garoppolo gonna come back, or is it Brock Party all day out there in San Francisco?
Yeah, I mean, they said 7 or 8 weeks would be the recovery time. I think they said he didn't need surgery. So if the Niners advance that far, then maybe that's an option down the road. But they have to get to pretty much the Super Bowl
that could be the possible worst luck in the world when you lose both your quarterbacks in one season. All right, Jeff, take care, brother.
Cool, thanks, Dwayne. Appreciate it.
Yep. And we continue with the mix. We started off the show talking to Jeff Young, who, the Giants just signed Mitch Hanginger. I can't say his name, but they are looking to sign a bigger fish out there in Aaron Judge. So the mix is a little bit of San Francisco Giants, a little bit of Giants, a little bit of Trojans, a little bit of Raiders. So we're gonna talk to Evan Desai here of Raider Troy, talking a little Trojans. A disappointing end, I guess, not end because they got one more game left, but they just worked so hard, and I thought they had opportunity to get to that moment where we're going to be able to see the Final Four into the college football playoff, where it wasn't meant to be. What are your reflections on that game? First of all, I felt like, watching the game from the view I had, it was really weird because it seemed like, to me, I give them credit on Utah, because Utah said, if we're going to lose, we're just going to blitz every play and just lose that way. We're not going to play drop back and play coverage. They blitzed every time, but I didn't see the screen passes. I didn't see the slants. Because I mean, the middle of the field was wide open. The safety. I mean, like, they had, and then you also had Jordan Addison. I know that was it Phillips is the corner, Clark Phillips. Good corner, but if I gotta put him on an island for the whole game, I'm gonna throw at least 3 or 4 balls up top to Jordan Addison to see if he can handle that. What are your thoughts about what you saw? We'll do offense first in that championship game against Utah.
I feel you on everything that you're saying. I think that it was just a tough situation because USC had a game plan for Caleb not being even 50%. They didn't game plan for him being on one leg. So when you're put in that position, while you already have your RB1, your best pass blocking running back out in Travis Dye, plus your best lineman out in Andrew Voorhees, the pocket's going to be collapsing every play. Because like you said, they wanted to blitz every play. And that was probably a pretty smart game plan by Scally and by Whittingham. And so then when Caleb can't move at all, like when he's, like I said, on one leg, you got to kind of try to find a way to adjust that game plan, but it's not that easy against that type of defense. And it's not that easy just in general when you're just trying to quickly pivot to something else that's not the game plan that you expected to be able to have with the personnel you had. Because obviously you expected Caleb to be at full strength. And when he was, USC was up 7-0. Even when he was at, what was it? I would say like 90%, they were up 17-3. But then once it obviously, got to the point where Caleb's mobility was just depleted, you're in a really tough spot schematically, and they're trying to decide if they should put Miller Moss in or whatever. And then they started to come back there at the end. Then Brett Nealon went down. Then we took a negative 3-yard rushing play, put Caleb in a tough spot. He had to try to make a really tough throw, really thread that needle on that throw to a Lake McCree, and he didn't have his lower half to be able to do that. So, it was a tough spot, and, I think it was worse because of the timing of the injuries, because, it prevented USC from being able to kind of make that game plan change.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, nothing you can really do about it. You can't, like I said, you can't plan for it. I mean, I think on the fly, you maybe could have kept a couple of tight ends in and just tried to, kind of work with that. We'll work with that. I thought it was most pivotal part in the game for me was up 17-3, 4 minutes left, 2nd and 1. I mean, I know they want to go quick. I know what they want to do, but but if you just run the football there and get that first down and let the clock roll, and then you at the very least you go up 17-10 into the half. That was 17. No, that was 17-3 because they scored it into the half. And you go in the half 17-3. Then you got it. Then you got better. You got a better opportunity to win the game in that situation. I think, especially, I think Michael Lombardi says if you want to play good defense, play less defense. I think with this unit, you definitely want to play less defense. So if they could get them off the field a little bit in that last 4 minutes, I thought that would have been great, because I'm all about winning the middle 8. That would have been a good move for them, because the middle 8 is where they got destroyed last time they played them. I thought that was a big point in the game. And was there any pivotal points in the game where you said that, okay, this is, because the second quarter, it was kind of that moment where they had an opportunity to kind of put the game away and they weren't able to?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that once who was it? It was Max Williams that forced the fumble when we were up 17-3. Bryson Shaw picks it up. Yeah, and you get the ball back, you get it in plus territory. And again, that was where Caleb couldn't move, because like I said, like he wasn't healthy really since that second drive when they noticed the gash on his hand and I don't know what was going on with his hand. It was just beat up, everything. And then they noticed obviously the legs.
Yeah.
But while he was still going to be, like I said, like 60% I would say he looked like maybe he was like about 60% for those first few drives, and they're up 17-3. Once they got the ball back after that fumble, that's when you start to notice like he really can't move. And they know that because they're not even, trying to have him move, and he can't move out of the pocket. And so you're just in a really tough spot right there to score. And that was the part where you can put it at 24-3 or even just 20-3.
20-3, yeah, exactly.
That's just an awful spot to put Utah in. The momentum is still on your side, even though you're a little bit banged up. So there's that. And, I know it's something that us two have talked about like off there is, there were also some other opportunities for turnovers in terms of Cam Rising throwing some really bad balls.
Yes.
I know that you talked about one that you thought would have been a pick six with Bryson Shaw. That was actually just before the fumble, as you pointed out to me off air. And then you also mentioned the one that Mekhi Blackmon tried to one hand. And at the time I was like, oh, well, it was a great defensive effort, it was a PBU, but I know there are some fans, and I heard you say, just go out with two hands.
Okay. Because he's good at getting picks. So get two hands on that, because this is the championship. We're not playing Rice here. Let's get that. Let's secure the football there, and that would have been nice too. So, yeah, I mean, I think that one thing too, and I'm on our Raiders podcast, we talk about special teams a lot, and we all know they don't have a special teams coach. They don't allocate funds for that. Like I said, six figures. I got you, Riley. I'll do special teams for you. Yes, but they did punt the ball with 20 seconds left on the clock. On that ensuing drive, they scored their touchdown with 2 seconds left on the game clock. So that's where you gotta kind of like, that's where you want to think about it too. If they force you to punt, you want to punt it with like, even take a delay of the game to use all that clock instead of giving them as much time as they did at the half. As far as that goes, but overall, your overall take on the season, Evan, I thought that they could. I looked at the schedule, and once I saw the Rice game, and I said, okay, this team is drastically different than Clay Helton. They could actually score in the red zone, and they're going to be explosive. I looked at the schedule quickly, and I said, okay, the games that I'm worried about, because I thought they'd beat UCLA going into the season. I thought it was at Utah and at Oregon State. They came within an eyelash of winning both of those games. They only won one of them, and then Utah came back again. What are your things you're gonna remember about this season, the first year under Lincoln Riley?
I'm gonna remember. I mean, first of all, the Heisman. I expect Caleb Williams to win the Heisman, and that's just huge for this program on a number of different levels. Number one, how many times during the Clay Helton era did you hear, oh yeah, Keaton Slovis is a Heisman candidate. He's a Heisman candidate, and it never happened. I mean, how many times did you see us? We have every reason in the world to pick up Bijan Robinson recruiting. He goes somewhere else, then he's a Heisman finalist in the preseason somewhere else, and it's like, well, why can't we get that 8th Heisman trophy? It's been a long time, and it's tough just because they took it from Reggie Bush and everything. We're about to get our 8th Heisman trophy and kind of take sole possession of that lead. I think that's huge for the program. I would also just say that the turnaround, the trajectory obviously is just in a completely different spot in the sense that, you go from, it's not just that, you go 4-8 to 11-1, but you get into a spot, or 11-2, including the Pac-12 championship, you get to a spot where both losses, it's very clear as to why you lost the game. It's very clear as to how close you were. And, if, there aren't some officiating issues in that first game, there aren't some injury issues in that second game, you're probably, 13-0. And I understand that you can't just sit back and think of excuses and everything like that. But I'm just saying, they were close even in this first year. And I think that with all the transfers that they picked up in the offseason, some really great recruits too, like Raleek Brown, and guys like that. Zion Branch, unfortunately, got hurt. But you're looking at a group that I thought at plenty of spots on the roster had a lot of great talent. And that was what led to, USC getting back, back to national relevancy, But the next step is going to be depth. The next step is going to be, how can you improve depth at all spots? And then how can you just improve the talent on defense in general? I know that the Reign of Troy podcasters, they say that, we're on a 3-star defense right now, because that's what we are. We're on like a 4-star offense. But this year we have like a 3-star talent level defense. So it's just going to be kind of about shoring up depth and making sure you can really kind of hit on the areas in roster building, meaning recruiting and transfer portal, in the spots that you really need to move forward. But I mean, it was obviously an excellent year in year one. You're, winning 11 games, beating both rivals. Beating what was it, 3 top 25 teams, and having some bad breaks led to a couple losses. But still with a top 10 ranking, you're onto the Cotton Bowl. It's a New Year's Six Bowl, and that's a great spot you want to be in your first year of the new coach.
And what players do you feel like next year? I know Willie Brown is one guy I can't wait to see next year. I think he's gonna be ridiculous. Who else on this team you want to see next year that you can't wait to see next year?
I would say Mario Williams. I think that he's going to be in an expanded role, and I think he's going to be older. He's going to be smarter. One more year of experience. Will have been in this offense for 3 years. One at Oklahoma and soon to be 2 at USC. And I think he's going to really like that kind of number one role, and he's going to be able to kind of teach the guys we have right now that are low on the depth chart that are young. Like CJ Williams. But then he's also like Kyron Ware-Hudson, but he's also going to be able to, I feel like, mentor some of the guys we got coming in and recruiting, meaning, like Zach Branch, 5-star, but Kai Levin probably going to be 5-star when he signs. He's going to be able to kind of help those guys grow. So that's what you're looking for when it comes to depth. I know you mentioned Malik Brown. I would like to see Eric Gentry with some weight. I thought that Eric Gentry had a good year just in general this year. I think that him putting on, if he can put on, 15 pounds, which I think is doable for someone, on a college meal plan and weight room.
I got some weight for him if he needs it. I got some weight. Take some of mine.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely, man. But yeah, I'm really excited to see him. When he gets stronger, because I know how talented he is. And like I said, I thought he had a good year in general. Yeah. And I would just also say I really want to see Damani Jackson next year, because I think that I thought he looked good when he played.
Yeah, me too.
But he didn't get to play very much just because they probably saw some stuff in practice or whatever. But I just think that him being able to work with Dante for another full offseason, he's Dante's guy. He's committed to Dante twice now. I think that he'll be in a spot where he can really contribute, kind of really thrive in that number one role, because I think he's a confident and competitive guy because he plays that way. He plays physical even for his size, not necessarily being like the biggest corner. He plays way bigger than he is. That's the type of guy I want on my defense.
Transfer portal, we had some I think USC has some guys going to the transfer portal. Is there anybody you think they'll miss, or you think that that's probably a bunch of 2-star, 3-star guys who were here before? I know Goforth he was a guy who's went to the portal as well, who has some depth at linebacker. But anybody who you think they're going to miss as far as that goes?
Actually, no. I think that Julian Simon, I think a lot of people thought would be a dude. Yeah. I myself kind of did, not just because the 4 stars next to his name, but just because he's built. He looked like a really athletic guy too. So it sucks that he did go, but I don't think they'll miss him just because I think they're just not working out. And hopefully he'll go somewhere else, and I'll root for him there. I just don't really think it's working out here. I'd rather kind of see him go somewhere else and try to build that up there. And then as far as Raylan Goforth goes, I like Raylan Goforth just because he's been around a while. He was one of the few rotational linebackers that we had that we used. But really, I never really was too impressed with his game. I thought that that pick 6 in week 1 was awesome. I know he had another game where he led the team in tackles, but it wasn't the best defense to necessarily be comparing yourself to. Yeah. And so I just never really thought that he really stood out. But again, he's another guy that, I want to see all these guys do well wherever they go. It's just that I think that it's probably best off for both sides for it to happen somewhere else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. A whole lot of sense. I had a question about Riley. I forgot what it was. But the Pac-12 has a new head coach. What are your thoughts about Deion Sanders? I mean, he did come in there guns blazing and basically said, "Hey guys, I got my own luggage," which means like enter the portal because y'all ain't gonna be here. Is this something that you think that he can? How quickly could he turn? The Buffaloes around? Is it kind of the same situation as USC, or is it that they're kind of like they're far behind, right? That's not going to be as quick as Jackson State. You got to come in here and start winning games immediately, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. They are far behind because when you're looking at Jackson State, like when you saw the recruiting he did at Jackson State, which is incredibly impressive, by the way, you got to think about who he's competing with in the FCS. He's not really competing with the type of talent that you're going to be competing with in the Pac-12. Even though I know the Pac-12, you know, this last, like, I don't know, several years has been down. This year it was obviously very good. It was great. And there's going to be a lot of talent, I suspect, next year. And so I think that he'll be able to kind of flip things around in recruiting. I think that he's that type of guy. I think that parents will want their kids to play for him. I think players have always seemed to gravitate towards him. I think he's a good leader. I think he's everything you want in a recruiter. But it's just that you're now competing not only on a Power Five level, but you're competing in a conference that is going to have a lot of talented teams. Like, you know, USC is going to be very talented next year. Oregon, I think, is still going to be very talented next year. We'll see but there are some teams in the Pac-12 this year that didn't have the best recruiting, but did well in the portal, like UCLA and like Washington. So it's like, I think that he'll be able to definitely make waves in recruiting, and he'll be able to steal some guys that people did not expect a Colorado 1-11 team to get. But there's just so much climbing uphill that he needs to do to get to the level of the Pac-12 where he's looking at one of the more talented rosters.
Yeah. Let's see here. So is Williams, I know he's hurt. Is he playing in the bowl game? Did they make that? With all the stuff that's going around, I don't think anybody's asked that question yet. Is he going to actually play in the bowl game?
He said at his charity event that he is. Lincoln Riley said that he's not sure he's going to try to rehab him, but Caleb Williams said he is. Now, I don't necessarily know how far into that you can look because he's Caleb Williams, but we know what type of competitor he is. He's always going to say he's going to play, you know, and he's always going to want to play. So you can't necessarily just assume he's going to play 100%. But I just will say, like Lincoln Riley said, he said, I'm glad we're not playing in the next 2 or 3 weeks for Caleb because then he probably wouldn't end up being able to play.
Yeah.
But he said there was a chance since it's a little bit later because the bowl games are obviously much later. And then Caleb Williams seems to have some some optimism that he'll be able to play. And he was retweeting stuff saying that he's going to play and all this. So, I mean, I definitely think that if I had to guess, it would be a yes, he will play. But it isn't 100% just yet. But I think that just being able to have 4 weeks of practice or however many practices they're allowed until that game is going to make so much bigger of a difference for Miller Moss than them just plugging Miller Moss into the game in Vegas, because now he's actually going to be able to – the team's going to be able to game plan with him and get him ready for that game. Whereas if you just threw him in Vegas, you know, regardless of your opinion, if you think they should have taken Caleb out or not, it would have been a tough spot for Miller Moss to succeed because they have to change the game plan on the fly.
Yeah, no question about it. Let's see here. Jordan Addison, is he bypassing it, or is he going to play?
Lincoln Riley says as of right now, the only player he does not expect to play will be Brett Nealon, who he's already ruled out due to injury.
Okay.
He said as of right now, everyone else is playing. I would continue to monitor that though, because guys like Jordan Addison and Andrew Voorhees, you know, there's going to be a lot of talking about draft stock and stuff like that leading up to the bowl game. I could see them pulling out, but just, you know, as an update for currently, the assumption is that everyone's playing except for Brett Nealon to injury.
Okay, cool. Because I would think if he didn't play, I would not fault Jordan Addison absolutely one bit. I think it's if it was for the national championship, I think he plays. I don't think, but if he wants to skip this game, I totally, you know, that I think Smith, the running back from Notre Dame, always comes to mind. Jalen Smith. So right, so nobody wants that situation for a talented player like Jordan Addison as far as that goes. I think that's pretty much it. I had another question about Riley. Oh yeah, here's my question about Lincoln Riley. Talented play caller, good coach. We all know how good he is. But do you feel like there is? I think maybe it's hard to say, like, you know, because, you know, his quarterback got hurt. But do you feel like guys who are great play callers miss the finer points in games sometimes because they're so into the play calling aspect of it? I know that there's some coaches who don't call plays who can kind of coach. They can hear everything. They can hear the defensive calls, offensive calls, and everything like that. But do you feel like those guys it's a little bit easier for like those guys to kind of coach the team, and they're worried about they're managing the entire game opposed to just calling the plays?
So are you asking, like, do I think that guys like Lincoln Riley, who are both designing and calling plays at the same time, miss the finer moments of the game, like you said?
Yes. where like Saban can like hear everything and then say, okay, I heard what you just said on that play, but I need something that I need to get my running back involved in this game right now because we're not running the ball well. Or, I won't miss, punting with 20 seconds left on the clock when it's down there, or timeouts at the end of the first time they played Utah. And you remember the halftime. I mean, remember the end of that game. I mean, they just called timeouts. They probably win that game. Stuff like that.
So honestly, yes, I do think they missed out on the finer points of the game. Like you said, there were some clock management issues in that first Utah game, and I'm not going to say that's why they lost, but obviously that was a factor.
I mean, defense could use a stop there and there.
Yeah,
once in a while in that game.
No, absolutely, and like I don't want to make one play so deep or whatever, but that when you brought up how we punted the ball with 20 seconds left instead of letting the clock go down. So Dalton Kincaid dropped that wide open touchdown on that drive right before they scored, correct?
7 seconds left. When did that happen?
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you imagine what it would have been like for Utah if they had their chance to score? They drove all the way down the field.
Oh yeah.
And they threw it. Dalton Kincaid drops it end of half.
Yeah.
We don't do they don't tie the game. We don't do that
right.
thing when Steven Nomura pitched the ball back to Raleek Brown. It went over his head. None of that happens. You go in 17-10.
Yeah. Dodge a bullet.
Anything have the momentum. That's a completely different game. So I don't want to just like pick on that one play, but that is a situation where you're talking about they do miss the finer points of the game in that sense. And I think that there have been times where you're sitting here, the first Utah game in particular, like, well, why isn't Lincoln Riley running the ball? They can't stop it. Like Travis Dodge is running wild on these guys. Why aren't they running the ball? And it just sucks because you don't want to criticize Lincoln Riley because of how great a job he's done all year and all the great things he does during the game.
Yeah.
But I do think that there is something to what you're saying when it comes to they kind of miss on the certain specifics that happen in the game flow, and they're kind of not able to make those adjustments. They're kind of just focusing on their game plan, and what plays they want to call. So I do think that, having an offensive coordinator could potentially help. The issue is that it's never going to be
or an assistant coach, or a guy he trusts to kind of help with that. Only because you can get really into those moments as a head coach, and it happens fast. I get it. I understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that Josh Henson is the coach that I like. I think he could be that guy. It's just always going to be tough for Lincoln Riley and him because the offense is still going to be Lincoln Riley's and it needs to be. You just got to kind of really try to find that kind of happy medium where he can. You can find a coach that can help you with that, but at the same time, not give him too much power. So it's a tough spot to kind of be in. I love Lincoln Riley in general, so I'm
me too.
sad about him obviously being there, but that just is something that he can be better at. Maybe the coaching staff as a whole can be better at, and I think that he will be better at because he's still in his 30s. He's only going to be better as a
which
coach.
Is crazy to think about. I think he's like, you always think he's way older than he really is. Alex Grinch isn't going anywhere.
Probably not. No.
Not even with Jim Leonard out there hanging out there.
Yeah, I saw that he's leaving. He'll leave after the bowl game. I would love that. I think you got to go after a new defensive coordinator if you know he's a kind of surefire guy like Leonard. It's just tough because it's tough if you're Lincoln Riley because you hired him, you had faith in him, and you didn't plan on moving off him after a year. You want to give him time. So I see both sides to it. Yeah. But what I just do want to point out is that if you can get Jim Leonard, please get him. If you can get a surefire upgrade, just do it. Don't even think twice about it. Yeah. And I know he likes Alex Grinch. Probably he's been with him for a while. He brought him here, but you got to pull that trigger if you have an option like that. Because that it makes a huge difference. And
it does.
Those types of coaches can coach any type of personnel.
Yeah, no question about it, man. No question about it. I just want to. You want to be fair and give him a chance to get his own players, but it's hard when you have a guy as talented out there as well. So, Evan, thank you for joining us again. Evan Desai of Rainer Troy. They got good stuff going on over there. So you want to follow them as well as you do want to follow our show as well too. So, take care, man. I'm looking at my wounds. I'm over it now. I'm over the loss now. It took me a couple of days. To get over it, but over the loss now. I wish they had like the 12-team playoff, so and so we can just get that thing popping, but it's not to be. So we'll see what happens in the future for the Trojans here.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you having me. For real, it was a good time.
No, man, always a good time. Take care, brother.
Hell yeah. Later.
And welcome as the mix continues. We talk Giants, we talk Trojans, and now we're going to talk about the Raiders. The Raiders, of course, winners of 3 straight, 5-7. They're kind of in the hunt, if you will, for the playoff spot in the AFC. So we'll have to see what happens if that continues, if they continue to play well and keep that going. Upcoming game this Thursday against the Rams. You'll hear a complete breakdown of that on the Put On Raiders podcast with myself and Ryan Holmes. But real quick, a couple of people hit me on DMs. Thank you for watching the show. I appreciate it. They were saying that they were remarking about my facial expressions and how I don't look joyful when the Raiders when the Raiders win. So I want to just want to respond to that, and that'll be the Raiders portion of the show. So we'll talk about that real quick. I would say this. I'm always happy when Raiders win. I love Victory Mondays in the NFL. Is always cool. I know if you probably work for the Raiders and you're in that building, it just feels like a weight off your chest when they win games because a lot went into this season, a lot went into this offseason. But I just feel like I don't know if I believe in this circle of what's going on with the Raiders. So I have to kind of hold them kind of accountable for that. They didn't run the football a lot in the first opponent, the first time they played the Chargers, and they ended up losing a game by less than a touchdown. And they probably should have swept the Chargers. The Chargers are renowned for being very, very, for lacking physicality and not being a physical football team. So yes, you have Waller. Yes, you have Renfro. Yes, you have Devontae Adams. But in that first game, like you should have run the football with Josh Jacobs. I mean, the numbers show it. I mean, we should have been running the football with Josh Jacobs. You have a problem with your offensive line. The first thing offensive linemen will tell you is that it's easier to get started when you're starting running the football and start hitting people. You start off trying to be, pass happy and try to, be Air Coryell. That's fine because you have those weapons in the passing game you got to use. No question about it. You pay them, you got to use them. The fact that they all want to use the middle of the field, that's an issue. And that's something that they should have thought about when they made this deal, because while you can move Adams, all over the place, he likes to work in the middle of the field. So does Waller, and so does Renfro. That creates a logjam. So that should have told them that, hey, maybe we shouldn't re-up all 3 of those players. So those kind of things can confuse me because I thought I was getting an organization where it's opponent specific game plan for that week. So we're playing the Chargers, who don't stop the run in week 1. I expected them to run the football and make plays that way and play action pass, get some plays down the field. Waller, Renfro, Adams, whatever you want to do in those situations. But I thought it was going to be like, okay, we're playing this opponent, so now we change up and we go 4 wide and we spread everybody out because they can't handle the pass. Like that's what I was getting. So now I'm seeing a little bit more of, he likes doing those little trickerations with the flea flickers. He likes, trying to go deep after turnovers. Like I'm seeing some things that I like now, but I should have seen that earlier in the year. And also the Raiders are 5-7. Like, like they're 5-7. Like I can't justify or talk about this as many issues as this team has had. They shouldn't be 5-7. You're up 23. You're up 23-0 in a ball game deep into the second half. You got to find a way as a head coach to close that game out. 3 times they had 17-point leads or more. 3 times. You got to finish those games. You can't sit there and like not finish those games. Now, They're playing well. They're playing better. I like what the things I've seen from Patrick Graham last couple of weeks. I'm seeing some blitzing where the blitzers are closer to the line of scrimmage. You know, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So let's get them on that straight line, and then let's not have them blitzing from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and thinking they're going to get to the quarterback. Now we're seeing them blitz from really close to the line of scrimmage. That makes a whole lot of sense to me, and I'm seeing that now, which is really good, which is great football. I mean, that's really good to see, But I'm not really pleased because I think the record should at the very least be turned around where they're 7-5. Now they put themselves in a position where they got to pretty much win every single game for the rest of the season, and that's a hell of a win streak. That's a hell of a win streak to have to go on to make the playoffs. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't say that word because we don't say that word for teams who are under 500 on this channel. So if they really want to take that to the next level, then yeah, I mean, the Rams game this week is pretty much easy pickings. And then it sounds like if you listen to the report from Paul Gutierrez, that Waller said that he's going to be ready to go for the Patriot game. Renfro hopefully will be ready to go for the Patriot game. That's gonna be an interesting game. We'll see what happens. That game has got. I believe that game has gotten flexed. So that's gonna be cool to see the game get flexed. It's always good times and bad memories for the Raiders when they play the Patriots. And you make sure you watch who's officiating that game and go look at his official scorecard to see how that works as well as the Raiders face them. But you can't look ahead to anybody in this league. The Rams just played the Seahawks, and the Seahawks won that game 27-23. So they were within a score of the Seahawks. So you can't get too giddy over that. They're going to be hang around this game. They picked up Baker Mayfield. I would be shocked if he played in this game. Like, I just don't see. I mean, 2 days you go with the team for 2 days and then he's just there. Like, I don't think that's a good. I don't think that works. But I mean, hey, they're already 3-9. They don't got draft picks. We'll see what happens with him going there. They probably blocked him from going to the Niners. I guess no other team claimed him, but if he went through, if he cleared waivers, I think the Niners would probably negotiate. They could probably get him. When you consider that Shanahan worked with him in Cleveland as far as that goes. But that's the reason why I'm not like smiley about the Raiders winning. I mean, this is if they just had one of those, if I could have got one of those victories against the Cardinals, the victory against the Titans, the victory against all these teams, the Jaguars. There's so many games that they just blew. I think I know mentally how I feel like the season's going to end, and it's going to either end at 8-9 with everybody wondering, oh my God, they could have, well, what could have been? Oh, just come back and we'll give it that old college try again next year. I mean, I'm not being super negative, but that's how I kind of feel the season's going to go. We'll see if it goes in that direction. I thought I could see when Ryan brought up the playoff run last year. I kind of saw it. I saw it coming. I could, once they beat Cleveland, I was like, okay, now if they win the Indianapolis game, they got it. Like, I thought for sure they would. I thought for sure they would be able to do it, and they were able to make the playoffs. Lost a game to the AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals. So that's the reason why I'm a little bit angry. Maybe all you guys a little bit giddier on the USC Student Body Right USC podcast, and maybe a little bit angrier on this podcast because I just was disappointed by a lot by the team, by the depth that they lack of depth this team has, especially at wide receiver. I got to watch Matt Collins play so many snaps. It kind of makes me want to throw up in my mouth because he just is not a starting, wide receiver. He's a special teams player. And they won't give any snaps to DJ Turner, which drives me crazy as well. They let go of Trayvon Mullen, another guy of another depth piece that they let go. They let go of Darius Phillips. I mean, they let go of some people who could help the team. I mean, not to mention the wide receiver whose name is escaping me, from Baltimore. You know, I mean, he was on the Chiefs, he was on the Raiders. The Raiders don't really have him. All I heard was T Billy. T Billy's not on the team anymore, and the team desperately needs a guy who can stretch the football field alongside. If you think that Patriot game is going to come, okay, you think the Patriot game is going to come next week, or in a couple of weeks, and they're going to allow Devontae Adams on the flea flickers to go for 180 yards, that's not happening. That's definitely 100% not happening. Let's switch over to another topic. Was Justin Herbert, talented player, good player, not great player. CBS Sports never tweet again that he's goated, because he's not goated. And we can sit there and talk about, like, you know, coaching and all those things like that, everything like that. I've seen him enough times in critical situations where he's had time in the pocket and throws a pick. He's had time in the pocket, panics, and runs into a sack. Like, I've seen him do that on plenty of occasions. And maybe this is the year where they finally move on from Brandon Staley. Maybe Brandon Staley, who, you know, is kind of disappointing as a head coach. I think we'll have to say that. Maybe when that happens, they'll go out there and get Sean Payton. They'll go out there and get another big time head coach, and then we can really see what the true Justin Herbert is. But right now, he's just a 500 quarterback who's just trying to find his way. And I don't want to make him special because he's made a couple of throws that people, I mean, even the simplest throws he makes, people go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs for, because let me guess, Justin Herbert threw it. Oh my God. It's amazing. He's goated. I mean, like, we're really using the word goat for a guy who's a 500 record, and a guy who could not beat Derek Carr in a winner take all game when he has all the talent in the world. He has a better team on paper. The Chargers were the better team on paper last year for them, and he lost to a head coach in Rich Bisaccia, who will never be a head coach again. Gus Bradley, who plays cover 3, and that's all he plays last year. A little bit different this year, but that's all he plays this year. I mean, last year with the Raiders was that. That's not greatness. That's not greatness. So calm that greatness down. Calm that greatness down. Please. Calm that greatness down. Let's not be silly about that as far as that goes. But Raiders, we'll talk more Raiders in the next podcast, where we put on Raiders podcast with myself and Ryan Holmes. And yes, I will finally have a Student Body Right USC podcast. It took me a long time to get over the loss to the Utah Utes. I thought that was just a tough game for the Trojans, and we'll talk about that on next episode of Student Body Right USC podcast. But this is the mix. We have a little bit of Raiders with myself. We had a little bit of Giants with Jeff Young, talking Giants and talking about what, you know, what can and will happen maybe with the Giants and Aaron Judge. And then we also talked to Evan Desai of Raina Troy. Always nice talking to him about what's going to happen with the Trojans in the future, and talking about this past season that was with USC. All right, Radiation, fight on, folks. And then also, Giants fans, we're just waiting for Aaron to make a decision. If you follow Twitter, he's in Hawaii. He's in San Diego right now. Hopefully, he's at the winter meetings and talking to his agent. Let's get that done. Become a Giant. Let's go.